Biological Transitions, Part 5, Sexual Maturation. So puberty brings a series of developments that are all associated with sexual maturation, and this includes secondary sex characteristics showing the outside of the body that the person is boy or girl, primary sex characteristics that change kind of inside the body, and also outside the body if you're male, but these can be shown through something called the Tanner stages, both some secondary sex characteristics and some, actually most of the primary sex characteristics. So we're going to start by talking about the Tanner stages, the 5 Tanner stages for a boy's development, and we'll talk about a couple of other changes that boys go through, and then we'll kind of talk about girls. So the 5 Tanner stages for a boy not only talk about the primary sex characteristics of what's happening with their scrotum and their penis, but also what's happening with the secondary sex characteristic of their pubic hair. So that's kind of those two things that are going to happen in each stage that we're going to talk about. So stage 1 is just a very slight increase in genitalia size. There's no pubic hair growth beginning in stage 1. Stage 2, which is kind of that beginning growth of the testes and the scrotal sac, this begins anywhere from like age 10-ish to 13 and a half. And what's happening here is a slight scrotum enlargement. The scrotal skin starts to get redden or darken and change texture. And then there's very sparse, light, fine hair that starts to grow mainly near the base of the penis only. By the way, pubic hair growth can begin anywhere from about age 9, 10, or all the way up to age 15 for boys. Really hard to put ages on this. These are just averages. Not everybody falls within the average. Stage 3, the scrotum continues to grow. The penis starts to increase in length. And penis growth starts to begin anywhere from like age 11 to 14 and a half. In terms of pubic hair in stage 3, we start to see that the hair is spreading over the pubic region. It's getting darker, thicker, and coarser. Stage 4, the penis not only continues to grow in length, but now also in width. Glands start to develop. The scrotum starts to grow and darken. Pubic hair is more adult type, but the coverage is much smaller. In stage 5, the penis and the scrotum are at matured adult size and shape, and pubic hair is distributed in this upside down triangle pattern and has now spread into the inner thighs. Other changes that are happening for a boy are their body is growing, and that's happening between ages 10 and a half to 16. Their larynx is growing, and that's what's going to deepen their voice, and that can start and happen anywhere between 11 and 14 and a half. Facial hair, underarm hair between the ages of 12 and 17. The same time as underarm hair, we start to see oil producing glands develop, sweat producing glands develop, and acne develop. And then before we talk about those last changes on the slide, I want to talk about anatomy because I think it's important to know what these things are and what they do. So the seminal vesicles produce the fluid that make up the semen, but don't produce the sperm. Those come from the testes. The prostate also produces fluid in semen, but it has a major role in the way that it kind of applies force, so that way the semen can go through the urethra during ejaculation. So that's really the prostate's job. And then the bulbourethral glands, those are also known as the Cowper glands. These are a pair of small little round glands that sit next to each other on the inside base of the penis. And when the penis is aroused, they produce pre-ejaculate that helps cleanse and lubricate the urethra prior to ejaculation of sperm. So while all of these glands are present at birth, they start to begin to develop more, enlarge more, and start to become useful. So the prostate doubles in size during puberty, and around 11 and a half to 14, the seminal vesicles enlarge to prepare for semen. The first ejaculation occurs around 1 year after that accelerated growth of the penis, and that is called spermarchy. Spermarchy. Spermarche. Interesting fact, Boys are usually fertile before they develop an adult-like appearance. Okay, let's talk about girls in the Tanner stages. Again, we're going to talk about, well, with girls, because we can't really see, we're not really talking about what's happening with changes in the vagina. We're mainly going to focus on these secondary sex characteristics of breast development and pubic hair growth. But before I start, I want to note that female development sequence is not as regular as a male's development sequence. For example, 1/3 of all girls have pubic hair before breast development. So breast size, it's not an indicator of maturation. I mean, if you have small boobs, if you have large boobs, this doesn't mean that you went through puberty later or earlier. It's not an indicator. And while we will still see these changes from stages 1 to 5, regardless of breast size, I just wanted to make that note. Okay, so stage 1, there's no breast development, there's no pubic hair growth. Stage 2, you start to get these breast buds, which is just the first appearance of kind of a shape to a breast. There's like palpable tissue underneath the nipples. The areola might be enlarged. In terms of pubic hair, we see a small amount of long pubic hair, kind of along the labia majora and the mons pubis. Again, anatomy is important, so we're talking about like the larger kind of lips of the vagina, and then the mons pubis is that fatty part, kind of at the kind of V area of the pelvis, kind of right at the top, above the clitoris. And that fatty part, that's the mons pubis. Again, very important to know your anatomy. Okay, let's move on. Stage 3. So stage 3, the breasts are more distinct. The hair is darker, coarser. It starts to get curlier and it starts to spread. Stage 4, the breasts further enlarge. There's greater contour to them. The nipple or areola forms kind of a secondary mound on top. In terms of pubic hair, hair is more adult type, but the coverage is smaller. And then in stage 5, we have a fully developed breast, and the hair is distributed in that upside down triangle pattern, and it's spread into the inner thighs. The beginning of breast growth can occur anywhere from around ages 7 to 13, and pubic hair can start anywhere between the ages of 7 to 14. There are other secondary sex characteristic changes that happen is body growth, which we see happen earlier in girls than boys. So this is at about ages 9.5 to 14. Menarche, which is the beginning of menstruation. It actually occurs later in development for some girls. That's between the ages of 10 and 16.5. And then, that growth spurt is actually happening kind of in the early to middle stages of breast development, if we're kind of going to put it in those Tanner stages. Underarm hair can develop anywhere between 9 and 16. Oil-producing glands, sweat-producing glands, acne around the same time as underarm hair, just like boys. And then we have the growth of the uterus, vagina, enlargement of the labia, enlargement of the clitoris. There's full reproductive function. It doesn't actually occur when menarche happens. It occurs around 1 year after menarche, and the reason is there are a lot of irregularities that happen at first menstruation. So usually ovulation doesn't start until around a year later, or it could be even 2 years later. So full reproductive function for a female isn't actually when they get their first period. It's once kind of ovulation becomes much more regular. Okay, and that is going to conclude this video.